Starting off this countdown, we have the extinct bat. In 2019, the Hill's horseshoe bat species were spotted for the first time in 40 years. The bats are home to a Rwandan rainforest. Scientists figured that they were endangered and had gone extinct already, since they hadn't seen them in years. That was until 2019 when scientists were on a 10-day expedition, and they came across these little guys. But when they first captured the bat, they didn't know how great their discovery was going to be. One scientist said, and I quote, "We knew immediately that the bat we had captured was unusual and remarkable. The facial features were exaggerated to the point of being comical. It took them 3 years to then identify what species this bat belonged to. Once they did, that's when they realized that this bat was brought back to life." In our 9th spot, we have Catagonus wagneri. Back in the day, this animal was discovered from early fossil records. They were thought to be extinct and people only knew about them because of the fossils. That was until 1974. That's when a biology professor from University of Connecticut rediscovered them while on a research expedition. In fact, the species was well known to the native people there. However, they are badly endangered. A huge population of them live in a 2,400-acre area in Gran Chaco. They hide out in the bushy, thorny areas so that they're safe from predators and local hunters. Sadly, only approximately 3,000 remain in the world. Moving on to number 8, we have tarsier. Now these guys are undeniably cute. Just look at its eyes, like they're so cute and big for its tiny little body. But strangely enough, scientists still don't know much about them. One of the reasons being is that scientists thought that they went extinct in the 1920s. But in May of the early 2000s, while checking a rat trap that they had set in the forest, scientists discovered that they had actually caught a pygmy tarsier. Sadly, it had died in the trap. But that's what let them know that they were still alive, minus that one. Then in 2008, researchers found a family of them in Lore Lindu National Park. Nowadays, it's believed that there are only 5,000 to 10,000 of these animals in the whole world. And that number is sadly falling again instead of rising. Now this is because these little creatures don't live too long in captivity. In fact, when they are in distress, they apparently try to take their own lives. So that's a reason why it's hard to look after these little guys and keep them off the endangered list. In our 7th spot today, we have the goblin shark. Now if you all have been a fan of this channel for a while, then you guys know that I hate this guy. Like, I'm not scared of sharks, but this guy, like, he's terrifying. He doesn't even look like a shark. He looks like a mutated shark. Like a shark that scientists tried to cross with a human or something. Anyways, goblin sharks were believed to have gone extinct millions of years ago. That was until 1891 when researchers spotted it off the coast of Japan. Instantly they were confused, but also scared, because again, look at this thing. What they found the weirdest though is that this shark barely changed over time. They didn't evolve at all. They still look the exact same, hence why they are called a living fossil. So these creatures can grow 12 feet long and can weigh up to 460 pounds. But in 2000, they found a giant goblin shark that was 20 feet long. So now researchers say that they have no real idea about how big they can truly get. Now the scariest part about them is that they have these weird ligaments in their jaw, and that allows them to extend their mouths out and snatch up their prey. Plus, their mouths launch out pretty fast. That's also why it makes their mouth look so creepy, you know? In our 6th spot, we have the tequila fish. And it's a very interesting name for a fish. I hope their relatives are called the vodka fish. So these fish disappeared from the Mexican wild in 2003. This was due to pollution and invasive species. People thought there was no hope, that these fish were just gonna die off. But turns out that conservationists were able to bring them back to life after a decades-long operation. Basically, scientists at Michoacán University in Mexico took 5 pairs of these fish in 1998. They then kept the fish safe, studied them, and then they made them reproduce to develop a larger colony. After 4 years in artificial ponds, scientists were able to increase these 5 fish to 10,000. However, only 1,500 were released back into the wild. And apparently the released fish are thriving and reproducing out in the wild. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the coelacanth. You're not gonna believe this, but these fish were around when dinosaurs roamed the earth. In fact, they were believed to have gone extinct alongside the dinosaurs. Then, millions of years later, they were rediscovered. In the 19th century, scientists discovered a fossil of this fish. This fossil was over 410 million years old. They thought they went extinct around 66 million years ago. So it shocked scientists quite a bit when in 1938 they rediscovered them off the coast of South Africa. They're just alive alive and thriving. In our fourth spot, we have the singing dog. This animal has been named the singing dog due to their distinctive howl. Sometimes they howl together to form kind of like a choir. Apparently their howls sound like a cross between a wolf's howl and a whale's song. They are also called the New Guinea Highland dogs and are closely related to the Australian dingo. Now, wildlife biologists thought that these animals went extinct sometime in the 1970s. However, in 2016 they were rediscovered in a remote region of New Guinea. Tests were run on them and it was confirmed that they were the same breed. In our third spot, we have the tree lobster, which is not an animal, so I'm technically cheating having it on today's list because it's an insect, but who cares, okay? The tree lobster is a large black stick insect. In fact, it is said to be one of the rarest insects on Earth. Back in the day, they were popular for fishing, as they were used for fishing bait. But by the 1920s, they were said to be extinct. Basically, a ship accidentally crashed onto an island and rats aboard the ship got introduced onto the island and threatened these species. But later on, a pair of Australian scientists discovered 24 of these bugs living beneath a single shrub. They ended up taking 2 pairs, breeding them, and then reintroducing more of these insects to help repopulate them. In our second spot today, we have the night parrot. Night parrots are often referred to as one of the world's most mysterious birds. They were first discovered in 1845 and were extremely rare to spot. That's because they come out at night and only in remote areas. Even then, there had not been a single sighting of these birds for 100 years, so they were declared extinct. That was until 1979 when a number of them were spotted again. In fact, this bird is the holy grail for bird watchers. Some spend decades hoping to get a glimpse of this bird up close. And in our number 1 spot today, we had the Kashmir musk deer. But I like to call them the vampire deer because they have vampire fangs. So these deer are native to Afghanistan, India, Pakistan, and western Nepal. It was believed that they went extinct in 1948 until they were rediscovered in 2009. However, they are badly endangered. It's said that there are less than 5,000 musk deer throughout the world. The main reason being is because they are a very popular target for hunters. Hunters like to kill them for their musk glands, which are often used in perfumes. They are said to be a rare aphrodisiac and can sell for around $45,000 per kilogram. Now, it is illegal to hunt for them, but that still doesn't stop people.
Number 10, the woolly mammoth. It was announced that not long ago that a team of scientists and entrepreneurs announced they were trying to bring back the woolly mammoth back to life. No zoo will ever be the same again, or smell the same for that matter. A company called Colossal is responsible for this colossal project. The brilliant team of scientists are planning to bring the woolly mammoth back to life by creating an elephant embryo made of mammoth genomes. Pretty cool. Have you ever seen Jurassic Park? I feel like they haven't seen Jurassic Park. It's kind of a bad idea. The last mammoth to ever live was 7,500 years ago, but what if we had these hairy Goliaths back again today? The Siberian tundra thousands of years ago was once full of woolly mammoths, but climate change began to slow them down. It also didn't help that humans needed food. And these guys could surely feed a family of 4. Mammoths also provided warmth, which was perfect for early humans. It's pretty cold out there. Genetics company Colossal raised over $15 million to try and bring this animal back to life. But should they?
Number 9, the woolly rhinoceros. Yeah, since we're on the woolly train, what better time to mention this hairy beast? The woolly rhino. I oddly want to pet him. Just one brush. Once upon a time, these rhinos were common throughout Europe and Asia. They were well prepared for the cold tundra. They had a thick blanket of fur, just like the old woolly mammoth. So no ice age will stop this rhino. I mean, it didn't help them out, but it was mostly humans needing food and warmth that led to their extinction. But cut to 14,000 years later, we're trying to apologize. We're trying to make it up to them by bringing them back to life. Hi, you exist now. Isn't that great? To a world that's even more harsh. Yeah, remember when it was cold? Well, now it's really warm. Good game, rhinos. Might want to go get a haircut. The same company responsible for the Mammoth Project is also trying to bring back this hairy boy. I mean, I'm all for science, don't get me wrong, but if these species died off that long ago, will highways help? Probably not.
Number 8, the heath hen. That's interesting, I don't know anything about that. Here we go. Finally something that isn't the size of a minivan. I'm already excited. The heath van we lost quite recently actually, which of course is sad. We're losing birds rapidly, especially in North America. Our prairies are shrinking and they're being converted to agriculture. By 1870, the only remaining heath hens were protected in a vineyard, or a vineyard. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. But sadly, when 1932 rolled around, those fluffy dudes were no more. Also, Thanksgiving dinners didn't help. I get hungry sometimes. Yeah, we ate another animal to extinction. I'm seeing a pattern here. However, all hope is not lost for the heath hens, hence the title of this list. A company called Revive and Restore, good name, they're trying to get these hens back to the sky rather than back on our plates. They've been working with the community since 2014 with some scientific help from the prairie chicken. Before we continue, if you haven't done so already, go check out our sister page Bumblebee. Taylor and I break down top 10 lists, but it's all ancient history, medieval stuff, lots of knights. Lots of knights. We love knights here, and castles. So make sure to check out our Bumblebee Facebook page for more, and maybe some behind the scenes content. I'll see you there. I'll see you there. Maybe some Wild West stuff too, you don't know.
Maybe some yees or haws. I don't know. We may have done some yees haws.
Yo.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you a lot. Number 7. Great auk. Once thriving in colonies off North Atlantic coasts, the great auk would grow up to 30 inches long, and its tiny little wings would only be used to swim, so don't get too excited. These little balls of fluff did not fly in the skies. Their wings were really tiny. They were like 13 centimeters long. Just little... They were cute, but quite defenseless. I don't know if you could have picked up on that. You know, very cute, very defenseless, obviously. Fluffy dudes. Around the 1500s, European fishermen discovered this perfect area for hunting, and it just happened to be where most, if not all, these great auks were thriving. Newfoundland, yeah, it looked like the iceberg in Club Penguin at this point. It was packed. It was a good time if you weren't a great auk. You were eating good if you were a fisherman, so their number rapidly declined. By 1950, the last 2 known specimens were hunted by one single fisherman on Eldey Island, just off the coast of Iceland. One dude just Thanos'd an entire bird species. What a monster. Scientists plan on using genetic information extracted from their fossils or preserved organs. You know, we love organs in jars. So they plan on editing their DNA with the closest living species, which is now the razor-billed auk. The organization Revive and Restore is behind the wheel on this one again. You'll see these names come up a few times over and over on this list because, yeah, not too many companies are trying to revive dead animals. What do you know?
Number 6. The Steller Sea Cow. Named after George Wilhelm Steller, who discovered this ball of blubber back in 1741. The Steller Sea Cow was first discovered during the Vitus Bering's Great Northern Expedition. They found her right after the crew became shipwrecked. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, here's a surprise sea cow to confuse you. Good luck! They were quite common millions of years ago, but sadly, and unsurprisingly, they were no match for humans. They only swam about a meter deep, so they were quite easy to hunt. George Steller assures that these creatures were made of pure love. They had strong bond with their families, which made it even easier to hunt. That's sick. Taylor. That's Taylor. Wow, that's really sad. What's also sad is my pronunciation of gestation, considering they had a 1-year gestation period. The species just couldn't reproduce fast enough to keep up with the hunting. But scientists were able to sequence their genome, which means we could see these creatures again one day. The answer may lie in the DNA of a dugong. Is that a Pokemon? That's a Pokemon, isn't it? That's a Pokemon.
Number 5, the dodo bird. So dodo birds were once big and beautiful. These flightless ground nesting birds once filled the islands of the Indian Ocean. They had massive talons. They were pretty scary. They were gray and blue, so they were beautiful. They didn't have any natural predator, right? This sounds great. No natural predator until we came along, of course. Around 1507, the island was discovered by Portuguese sailors, and the rest, yeah, you can guess. The rest is history. They were the easiest bird to hunt. Had the phrase dead as a dodo, right? They were easy to take out. They weren't just loved by sailors either. They were not 100% to blame here, okay? Monkeys, rats, pigs, any animal that made its way to the island just had their eggs for lunch. It was so easy. So it didn't take a long time for the dodo population to completely be gone. The last dodo was hunted in 1681, but could it be on this list? Could we bring back the dodo bird today? Hopefully, I mean maybe, I don't know. Scientists found an extremely well-preserved dodo skeleton back in 2007, so we may have a chance at picking apart some DNA. A research facility near Melbourne, Australia is currently trying to use pigeon genes to bring this bird back. Again, I'm all for science, I'm all for bringing animals back to life. You know, scientifically, that's a feat in itself, great work, we love it. But do we really think no one's gonna make dodo bird chicken wings? That's a problem waiting to happen. As soon as I said it, you were like, oh, that would be pretty good.
Number 4, Pyrenean ibex. I'm just as confused as you guys are. The Pyrenean ibex went extinct 22 years ago. Last one was seen in 2000, my friends. The last one was a female named Celia. That's so nice. A falling tree sadly killed her. Oh my god. That's horrible. A subspecies of the Spanish ibex were once native to the Pyrenees Mountains on the border of Spain and France. Back in the Dark Ages, medieval times, their population was reduced drastically to an endangered level. They would roam the land, but knights with swords and bows and armies to feed, you can kind of guess what happened there. Disease being spread by humans at this point also played an important role in their demise. Humans could barely keep up, let alone animals. The Pyrenean ibex was successfully cloned and brought back from extinction for a whopping 7 minutes. DNA from the last living lady was implanted into the womb of a domestic goat. Science is wild, dude. That's so crazy. Lung complications are why the clone didn't last longer than 7 minutes, but listen to what I just said. They made a clone for 7 minutes. It's a start.
Number 3, the Tasmanian tiger. Once native to Australia, classic, the Tasmanian tiger, also known as the thylacine, you have to say that in Australian accent, the thylacine. It was a massive thylacine. I'm gonna say it all day now. It was a massive carnivorous marsupial that went extinct around the 1930s. So major factors here, as you probably have guessed, climate change, hunting, and its genetic diversity wasn't all too great. It's sad on one hand because these beautiful creatures disappeared so recently, but it's recent enough that we have a shot at bringing them back. Yeah, just back to life. Hi, that was a close one. Go hunt. Yeah, imagine looking outside and seeing this thing on your front yard. Are we ready for this? I can barely handle like deer in Canada. I don't know. Squirrels, black squirrels, they're scary up in Canada. I don't know. Thank God for those jars though. About time we open those up. Some jars of organs, classic. Already we have some of the Tasmanian tiger genes present after scientists, inserted them into a mouse fetus and they're just waiting to see what happens. The Australian Museum has been working hard to bring this beast back to life and they're close. They're only still lacking the DNA fully to recreate it. So if you have any jars of Tasmanian tiger parts, comment down below, hit that thumbs up, let us know. We'll bring them back.
Number 2, the gastric brooding frog. That just sounds like it needs to be shot. I'm a big fan of frogs. I mean, I don't mind them. They're green and stuff and they're slimy, I guess. They're pretty cool. Except for when they hatch babies out of their backs. Taylor showed me a video of that earlier and I almost threw up. There's a joke there somewhere, but I don't know. That's just gross, dude. Why would you show me that, Taylor? Frogs are wild, but back in the day, they were quite dangerous to be around. Gastric brooding frogs, for one, are so alien. These frogs would swallow its egg and hatch them from their mouth. No. So if you saw this in the wild, you would know. You might just see one soon. Maybe your kids will see one in the wild. Now they went extinct back in 1983, but scientists have figured out a way to implant dead cells into a fresh egg from an entirely different frog species. Let's just hope these new ones aren't born out of their back and we're golden. I don't have to think about that. Oh God. Oh.
And finally, number 1, the Megatherium. Mega. Big last. Number 1, mega number 1. That's actually not that big. We talked about bringing back the woolly mammoth, so what other Ice Age cast member can we see in live action in the future? Let's see. Perhaps the Megatherium, aka the giant ground sloth. Yeah, they're kind of cute. They're scary, but they're pretty cute. They're slow and cute. Sloths used to be a lot bigger than we think. We often laugh at them for being so slow. The movie Ice Age sure didn't help their case as the dodo birds. Of course, the giant ground sloth is closely related to our modern three-toed sloth, but luckily for us, today's sloths aren't the same size as an elephant. Yeah, because that would be a horror film, wouldn't it? If a giant elephant-sized sloth started to slowly climb a tree outside of my house, I'd be sick. I wouldn't wake up. I'd be like, that's it. I had a heart attack. That's the scariest thing I've ever seen. We may be able to bring this one back, although they died off 8,000 years ago. It's still possible. Anything's possible with science and a little hope and fear. DNA samples were extracted from their hair remains, so the next step is to develop a fetus in an artificial womb. That's the hard part, so keep in tune for that. Keep in tune for that. That's the thing we like to say here. Keep in tune, guys. Keep in tune for part 2.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the coelacanth. Imagine discovering a creature believed to have vanished with the dinosaurs, only to find it alive and swimming beneath the waves. That's the incredible tale of the coelacanth, a prehistoric fish thought to be extinct for over 80 million years until one was caught off the South African coast in 1938. With its lib-like fins that move like our own arms and legs, and an extra lobe on its tail, the coelacanth is a living fossil that offers a window into our planet's distant past. Subsequent captures and photographs, including a new species found near Indonesia's Sulawesi Island, revealed that these mysterious fish were not only alive, but thriving in deep underwater caves. Their unexpected reappearance challenges what we know about extinction and reminds us that the ocean still holds many secrets waiting to be discovered. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Lord Howe Island stick insect. Picture stumbling upon a creature so rare it was thought extinct, surviving on a single shrub atop a remote sea stack. The Lord Howe Island stick insect, affectionately dubbed the land lobster due to its hefty size, stretching up to 12 centimeters long, was once so plentiful on Lord Howe Island that fishermen used them as bait. After invasive rats decimated their population by 1920, they were declared extinct in the 1960s. But in 2001, a daring expedition to the jagged peaks of Ball's Pyramid, a sheer volcanic spike rising from the ocean 20 kilometers away, led to an astonishing discovery. There, clinging to life under a melaleuca bush, a tiny colony of these giant insects was found and captured on camera. This incredible comeback story has ignited efforts to breed them in captivity, with hopes of reintroducing them to their original homeland. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Fernandina giant tortoise. Imagine discovering a creature thought to have vanished over a century ago, alive and plodding along in the wild. That is exactly what happened with the Fernandina Island Galapagos tortoise. First found in 1906 and then presumed extinct after that lone specimen, hope was reignited when explorers captured on camera an elderly female tortoise on remote Fernandina Island in February 2019. This remarkable find was confirmed in 2021 when genetic tests proved she belongs to the long-lost subspecies. Now, conservationists are on an exhilarating mission to find her a mate and revive the population of these magnificent giants. In our number 7 spot today, we have Wallace's giant bee. For this one, we have to picture encountering a bee so colossal it's the size of your thumb. That's Wallace's giant bee, the world's largest known bee species, once believed to be extinct. First discovered in 1858 by explorer Alfred Russel Wallace in the Indonesian wilds, this magnificent insect seemed to vanish without a trace. For decades, it was considered lost to history until 1981 when it buzzed back into the spotlight, only to disappear again. Then, in a thrilling twist, a live female was captured on camera in 2019, her enormous jaws and impressive wingspan proving she was no myth. Nesting inside termite mounds on remote Indonesian islands, this king of bees reminds us that nature's most extraordinary secrets are still out there waiting to be rediscovered. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Somali elephant shrew. What if I told you there is a tiny creature that looks like a mix between a mouse, a gazelle, and an elephant, thought to be lost to science for over 50 years? That is the Somali sengai, or elephant shrew, a pint-sized mammal with a trunk-like nose and long, spindly legs that let it dart across rocky terrains at lightning speed. Scientists believed it had vanished since 1968, but in a thrilling turn of events, an expedition in Djibouti in 2019 captured this elusive animal on camera for the very first time. To their astonishment, they found that the Somali sengai wasn't just surviving, it was thriving with no immediate threats. This incredible rediscovery has reignited curiosity and wonder, reminding us that the natural world still holds many hidden treasures waiting to be found. In our number 5 spot today, we have the crest-tailed mulgara. You're trekking through the Australian desert and suddenly spotting a tiny furry face peeking out from the sands, a creature believed to have vanished nearly a century ago. That's exactly what happened when scientists rediscovered the crest-tailed mulgara in New South Wales Sturt National Park. This carnivorous but undeniably cute marsupial, weighing about 150 grams with pale blonde fur and a distinctive black crest along its thick tail, was thought extinct in the region due to predators like cats and foxes. Captured on camera during a routine survey for the Wild Deserts Project, this little survivor is sparking big excitement. Conservationists are now gearing up to remove invasive species and restore the mulgara's habitat, offering hope that these elusive animals will make a triumphant comeback. It's an amazing discovery that makes me question what secrets are still hiding in the outback. In our number 4 spot today, we have the New Guinea singing dog. Imagine trekking through the mist-shrouded mountains of New Guinea, where the dense jungle hides secrets older than time itself. As dusk settles, a hauntingly beautiful melody floats through the air, a series of harmonic howls unlike anything you've ever heard. Your heart races. Could this be the legendary creature locals speak of in hushed tones? Indeed. It's the New Guinea singing dog, a wild canine once thought to have vanished forever. Known for their extraordinary vocalizations that resemble a chorus of yodels and eerie whale songs, these elusive dogs were believed extinct in the wild for decades. Scientists had only studied them in captivity, where their numbers dwindled and their origins remained a mystery. But hope was rekindled when, in 2016 and again in 2020, explorers and researchers captured stunning images and footage of these animals roaming freely in the remote highlands. With their fox-like appearance, amber eyes, and a bushy tail, the New Guinea singing dogs are not just any wild dogs. They are living fossils, offering a glimpse into the early chapters of canine evolution. Their reappearance has ignited excitement among scientists and conservationists, sparking new studies to understand their genetics, behavior, and how they've survived undetected for so long. In our number 3 spot today, we have the terror skink. Imagine coming face to face with a lizard so fierce it's called the terror skink, boasting fang-like teeth and a menacing glare. First documented in the 1870s on the remote islands of New Caledonia, this 20-inch long reptile was thought to have vanished forever due to habitat loss and invasive rodents. For over a century, the giant terror skink was presumed extinct until daring expeditions in the 2000s captured it on camera, alive and well on secluded islets. This thrilling rediscovery not only brings this formidable creature back into the spotlight, but also ignites hope that other lost species are out there, hidden in the world's unexplored corners, just waiting to be found. In our number 2 spot today, we have black-naped pheasant pigeons. Somewhere in the dense, rugged jungles of Papua New Guinea, scientists were searching for a bird so elusive it hadn't been seen by scientists since 1882. Just as hope began to fade, a camera trap reveals the impossible: a living black-naped pheasant pigeon. This magnificent, ground-dwelling bird, once thought extinct, was captured on camera by intrepid researchers on Ferguson Island after a grueling month-long expedition filled with steep climbs, roaring rivers, and relentless insects. Thanks to invaluable guidance from local hunters who knew the bird as awo, the team rediscovered this mythical creature in the nick of time. And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the La Palma giant lizard. Picture you're standing atop the sun-soaked cliffs of La Palma, one of the Canary Islands' most enchanting gems, when suddenly, out of the corner of your eye, you spot a colossal lizard basking on a rocky outcrop, a creature thought to have vanished centuries ago. This is the La Palma giant lizard, a species once known only from ancient fossils and believed to be extinct. These magnificent reptiles, some reaching astonishing sizes, have been secretly thriving in the island's remote northern cliffs, evading human detection for generations. For over 20 million years, these lizards evolved in splendid isolation on the Canary Islands, growing to giant proportions thanks to the lack of natural predators. Their reign was unchallenged until humans arrived, bringing with them cats, converting wild landscapes into farmland, and hunting these giants, leading to their dramatic decline. But now, like something out of a legend, recent sightings and photographs have unveiled these elusive creatures, capturing them on camera as they lounge under the sun. Scientists are buzzing with excitement, scrambling to confirm the lizard's survival and learn more about their secretive lifestyles. Expeditions are being planned, and conservationists are hopeful that with protection, these ancient reptiles can reclaim their rightful place in the island's ecosystem. The thrilling rediscovery of the La Palma giant lizard is not just a scientific triumph, it is a captivating reminder that our world still harbors hidden wonders. It sparks the imagination and beckons adventurers and nature lovers to ponder what other mysteries await us in the unexplored corners of the earth.
This video supposedly shows a woolly mammoth crossing a river in Siberia. It quickly went viral, racking up 3 million views on YouTube and and more, people couldn't help but wonder if the mammoth had been living for centuries in remote parts of Siberia, completely untouched by humans. Now, whether you think this video is a hoax or not, there have been some interesting reports of supposed living mammoths. They're believed to have gone extinct over 10,000 years ago, but there are still stories floating around about them being spotted in some of the world's most remote places, especially in the northern hemisphere's tundra. Native American tribes have been telling tales about these creatures for years. The Northeast Algonquins talked about a great moose with a weird extra limb growing between its shoulders that it used to prepare its bed. The Naskapi people from northeastern Labrador spoke of a monster with a long nose that it would use to hit people. Even Siberian tribesmen have reported seeing large, shaggy beasts roaming around, though no one's actually caught solid proof. There have been mammoth sightings across Asia, South America, North America, and Russia. What you're looking at here is a massive-sized sturgeon. The footage originally posted by Ronald Drago was shared and reposted all over the internet, and it's easy to see why. The creature is just a monster. The sturgeon is an ancient creature that's been around since the early Jurassic period. Some of these fish can grow over 20 feet long, which is as big as a great white shark. They mostly feed on small animals from the ocean floor and are harmless to humans, but because of their size, they can still pose a threat. There have been reports of sturgeons leaping out of the water, landing on boats, and causing serious injuries or even death. They can weigh over 1,000 pounds. This footage here was posted to YouTube by Adam Pitts, who'd hauled in this Jurassic era-sized beast in Florida. A bunch of hunters had been trying to snag this thing because it was responsible for some deaths. No surprise there. This gator was not missing out on any meals. Pitts and his team had a long battle with the gator before finally hauling it out of the lake. It was about 12'8". It's sad, but unfortunately some animal populations just need to be controlled sometimes, especially when it comes to people's safety. This wasn't just a hunt for the thrill of it, it was for the protection of the community. This is not an AI video. This is a real piece of footage taken back in 2018 at a golf course in South Carolina. This gator was caught strolling through the golf course on its way to somewhere. It's become a pretty famous video. The event was taken by multiple people from different angles. Video of it showed up on the news, and it's understandable. It looks like footage of a living dinosaur. Even the family of deer in the background just couldn't help but stand there in total shock. Like, what are we looking at right now? They're standing there like a deer in headlights. Alright, I guess deer aren't really all that hard to surprise. But still, gators are some of the oldest animals on the planet. I still find it so cool that you really are looking at a living dinosaur when you see one. This footage here was captured by members of a Japanese expedition crew in the Congo. They were seeking out evidence of an elusive animal known to the locals as Mokele Membe, a plesiosaur-like creature believed by some cryptozoologists to be a remnant of the Cretaceous period. Mokele Membe comes from Bantu mythology. It's said to live in the Congo River Basin. It's described in different ways. Some say it's a reptilian creature, others think of it as a spirit, but the most popular description is an ancient dinosaur-like sauropod. In the early 1900s, cryptozoologists got really interested in this legend, with some launching expeditions to find proof of the creature's existence. Most experts believe that the stories about Mokele Membe are probably based on sightings of the black rhinoceros, which used to roam the region. Some even think the myth may have been influenced from earlier tales about Great Zimbabwe. This next creature is called Tuatara. Just look at this silly, stubby-legged little lizard. Cute as can be, according to me. I know some people are freaked out by reptiles and lizards, but I really enjoy them. So these things can be found roaming around in New Zealand. They look like a lot of reptiles you've probably seen, very similar to iguanas, but these things have quite the history. They've been around for an estimated 225 million years. So once again, they're basically living dinosaurs, just very small ones. Pretty cool. What's also interesting about these things is that they don't have ear holes like modern day reptiles, so their hearing is, of course, limited, but they can still respond to low frequencies. Next up, we have the Chinese giant salamander. And when I say giant, I do mean giant. These are the largest amphibians in the world. Some of them can reach up to 6 feet in length, weighing in at about 110 pounds. That sounds like a salamander that would have been roaming the earth during the time of the dinosaurs, and they did. The Chinese giant salamander has been around since the Jurassic period, about 170 million years ago. These creatures are also known for their very unique and haunting sounds. They've been described as rather unsettling. Some people describe them as barks or hissing, but the creepiest noise is the high-pitched crying, almost like a very young human. Given how huge these things are and the fact that they clearly do not look human, that would be pretty freaky hearing a sound like that come out of an animal like this. But honestly, I still think these creatures are kind of cute in their own weird way. And we have another dinosaur, the Komodo dragon. These things are insane. They're huge, some of the biggest lizards on the planet, weighing more than a full-grown human in some cases, and these things are as dangerous as they look. They've been known to attack and even kill humans, and to top it off, their bite is venomous. Scientists have found Komodo dragon fossils that are about 4 million years old. These giant lizards are found in Indonesia today, specifically 5 islands, one of which is called Komodo Island, which, no surprise, has the largest population of Komodo dragons in the country. You can't just wander onto this island, not that you'd ever want to. It's very strictly a guided tour situation. If you ever visit, trust me, don't want to go alone. If you stray too far, it could be the last mistake you make. Komodo dragons are no joke. Along with crocodiles and alligators, they're one of the closest things we've got to real-life dinosaurs. These reptiles can reach lengths of 10 feet with razor-sharp teeth and venomous saliva. They eat whatever they can catch: monkeys, deer, boars, goats, and yeah, sometimes humans. They're just pure predators. Now, they don't attack humans all the time, but between 1974 and 2012, there were 24 reported attacks in Komodo National Park. The shoebill stork. These birds have been around for 30 million years at the least. If you were to look at every living bird today and you had to just pick one that looked like it had been around since the prehistoric times, it would have to be the shoebill stork, right? This is definitely the one I'd be picking. Look at the size of the beak on these things, very dinosaur-esque. Shoebills are found in the swamps and wetlands of Africa. They're massive birds, standing about 4 to 5 feet tall with a wingspan of 7 to 8 feet. They have this unmistakable shaped bill, which can reach lengths of up to 9.5 inches just on its own. This massive bill is a formidable weapon for catching prey, which is mostly fish. They're known to be very patient hunters, standing motionless for hours before striking at lightning speed. And these birds really are just as intimidating as they look. Highly skilled hunters that are capable of preying on animals as large as young crocodiles. And to top it off, they make this eerie clicking sound with their beak. They sound almost like an automatic firearm or the predator. What you are looking at here is a horseshoe crab. Now, crabs may not be all that exciting to you, but these ones are different. Horseshoe crabs are one of the oldest creatures on the planet. They've been a staple of the Earth for around 445 million years. That is a lot of years. That's back before the land split off to form the continents that we have now. Earth still consisted of one single supercontinent when these things were around. These ancient arthropods have seen old friends go and new ones come along, and when I say friends, I mean entire species evolve and then go extinct. They've seen a lot. And interestingly, even though they have crab in their name, they're not actually crabs. They're more closely related to arachnids. In March of 2011, Sean Funk, a shovel operator at a mine in Fort McMurray, Alberta, was digging when he made an amazing discovery. A discovery that turned out to be Alberta's oldest dinosaur fossil and one of the best preserved ever found in the entire world. Honestly, this has to be the most amazing dinosaur discovery that I've ever read about. And I think Don Henderson, curator of dinosaurs at the Royal Tyrrell Museum, agrees, saying at the time, "Right away we knew it was going to be something good, but we had no idea how good it was going to be." So after getting the fossil back to the museum, Don and his team got to work, and 6 years later, the dinosaur was named Borealopelta markmicheli. The name Borealopelta means shield of the north, and the species name honors Mark Mitchell, the museum technician who spent over 7,000 grueling hours removing the dinosaur from rock. Now, I'm not done with this one. There's just too much to talk about with this discovery to cram it into one point. So as I said, the Borealepelta was incredibly well preserved. It was covered in thick armor, especially around its neck. It also had these massive 20-inch spikes at the shoulders that were assumed to be for fighting, but Victoria Arbour, a curator of paleontology, also thought they might have been a display of health and strength, similar to the horns of a bull or tusks of an elephant. Now here's what's utterly crazy to me though. This dinosaur was so intact, they were able to see what was in its stomach. There were twigs and ferns in there, suggesting it ate during the wet season. Scientists think it could have been swept away by a flash flood, eventually sinking to the bottom of the sea. The body would have flipped over and sank, with its thick back and bloated belly causing it to be preserved in sediment, creating a natural time capsule that kept it safe for 110 million years. Here's another crazy thing about this find though. They were even able to determine, to a certain degree, what color the creature was. Most of the fossil was covered in relatively well-preserved skin, and from this, they were able to study pigment cells called melanosomes. Melanosomes are seen in nature all the time. It's what gives many modern-day animals unique markings like spots and stripes. It's rare to see melanosomes in fossils, but again, Borealepelta was especially well preserved. At least one component of Borealepelta's color was this reddish brown, said Caleb Brown from the Royal Tyrrell Museum. The color on its back may have been part of a camouflage pattern called countershading, helping it blend into its environment and avoid predators. Now also in 2011, a team of paleontologists led by William Hammer discovered a new species of ancient dinosaur in the frozen mountains of Antarctica, an area that's usually thought of as one of the coldest places on Earth, but of course millions of years ago it was much warmer. The dinosaur was small, around 4 to 5 feet long, and had bird-like hip bones. It was likely related to early plant eaters like the Ferbosaur and Heterodontosaur, which were the ancestors of larger and more famous dinos like Stegosaurus and Ankylosaurus. The fossils were found on Mount Kirkpatrick, part of the central transatlantic mountains. Hammer and his team uncovered a leg and foot, but they weren't sure if they had found the dinosaur's head. It would take about a year to fully understand what they'd found. Thomas Holtz, a geology professor at the University of Maryland, noted that the find could help fill gaps in both dinosaur evolution and the ancient Antarctic environment, saying that this discovery was from a time when dinosaurs were just starting to take over, comparing these early small plant eaters to rabbits, fast, common, and without armor, but important to the overall evolution of the giant plant eaters that came later. Finding fossils in Antarctica is extremely challenging because of the harsh conditions and short research window. Hammer had been trying to return to the site since 1990, but bad weather and helicopter problems cut short his 2003 trip. As Holtz put it, anytime we find fossils there, it's a brand new species. It's practically unexplored territory. So these weren't the only dino remains William Hammer discovered in the mountains of Antarctica. In 1990, he and his team discovered a 22-foot meat-eating dinosaur called Cryolophosaurus. This was a big deal because it was the first dinosaur ever found in Antarctica. Cryolophosaurus was a meat-eating dinosaur that lived around 190 million years ago during the early Jurassic period. It was about 20 to 23 feet long, 6 to 7 meters, and weighed roughly 1,000 pounds. What really sets this dinosaur apart was its unique crest. The crest, found on the top of its head, had a very unusual shape, kind of like a frozen backwards mohawk. There are like two kind of things here. It's believed that the crest could have been used for display, either to attract mates or to communicate with other members of its species. As Hammer put it, it looked like a frozen crested reptile, which is how they got the name Cryolophosaurus, meaning frozen crested lizard. And again in the early 1990s, William Hammer of Augustana College discovered more incredible fossils on Mount Kirkpatrick. These particular fossils included parts of a foot, leg, and ankle bones from a long-necked dinosaur that lived around 190 million years ago. It wasn't until much later, though, that the fossil was identified. The fossils were painstakingly removed from the ice and rock using jackhammers, rock saws, and chisels under extremely difficult conditions, said Nathan Smith, a graduate student at the Field Museum in Chicago. After a lot of hard work, Smith and paleontologist Diego Pohl realized they'd found a new species of dinosaur, which they named Glacialosaurus hammeri. This dinosaur was about 20 to 25 feet long and would have weighed between 4 to 6 tons. that belonged to a group called sauropodomorphs, which includes some of the largest dinosaurs ever. Think of those massive-sized, long-necked plant eaters. Around 20,000 years ago, a young woolly rhinoceros was going about its day in what's now northern Siberia. It was probably foraging for food when it made an oopsie and drowned in a river. Fast forward to 2020, and that same woolly rhino became a huge discovery for scientists. As rising temperatures cause permafrost to melt, creatures like this long extinct rhino are being uncovered, giving researchers a glimpse into prehistoric times. Permafrost is a layer of soil that's been frozen for thousands of years, great for preserving ancient remains. The woolly rhino's carcass was found by a local farmer in Yakutia, Siberia, about 15,000 years after the species went extinct. The fossil was incredibly well preserved, with its fur, hooves, and internal organs still intact. But what made this discovery even more special was the rhino's horn, which is rarely found in such good condition because cartilage usually decomposes relatively quickly. In 2018, a local man named Pavel Efimov made an incredible discovery in Siberia: the severed head of a giant wolf, perfectly preserved beneath the permafrost. But this wolf was nearly 40,000 years old. It wasn't until 2019 that researchers started studying it in detail. The big question they were trying to answer was whether the wolf's head had been chopped off by humans or separated by ice. The cut on the wolf's neck wasn't what you'd expect from ice separation. It was rougher, less smooth, meaning it might have been made by something like a tool. The severed head is quite large, measuring about 40 centimeters, much bigger than the typical 25 centimeter head of a modern Siberian wolf. It had a thick mammoth-like coat, sharp fangs, and some parts of its skull seemed more developed than today's wolves. In 2016, ornithologist Stephen Emsley made a surprising find during a research trip in Antarctica. He stumbled on ancient penguin remains at Cape Urzar near the Ross Sea, and what he discovered there was unlike anything he'd seen before. Now, at first, Emsley was researching ancient penguin remains at the site, following a lead about penguin droppings. He didn't expect to find much, since explorers like Robert Falcon Scott and Ernest Shackleton hadn't recorded any penguin sightings in the area. But when Emsley arrived, he found something unexpected: white splotchy guano stains and loose chick bones, which usually indicate that a penguin colony had recently occupied the site, but that wasn't the case. Investigating further, he found complete penguin chick carcasses and even intact mummies. The site must have been covered by snow and ice soon after the colony was last abandoned, preserving the surface remains for centuries, Emsley went on to write. The site had been used by penguins at different times in the past, with carbon dating showing it was occupied 3 times starting around 5,000 years ago. The site's location and the penguins' repeated visits were likely because of changing ice conditions, which would open and close the coast to the penguins. Emsley believes that this area could potentially see penguins returning in the future as climate change melts the sea ice earlier each summer, giving them access to the coast again. In 2018, some fossil ivory hunters in northeastern Siberia made a pretty cool discovery. While digging into the permafrost, they unearthed the carcass of a bird, but this bird was a 46,000-year-old specimen, perfectly frozen in time. The discovery was sent to paleontologist Love Dallin and a team of researchers at the Swedish Museum of Natural History. The bird is believed to be an ancestor of the horned lark, which is found in places like northern Russia and Mongolia today. It's a cool find though, the first bird of its kind ever to be discovered. The fact that the bird was almost completely intact made it one of the best preserved ancient animals ever found. The bird was found near Balaya Gora, a village in Yakutia, an area known as the Pole of Cold because of its extremely cold winters, sometimes reaching as low as -60 degrees Fahrenheit, which is roughly -50 degrees Celsius. That is just too cold. The researchers think that the end of the last ice age led to the formation of a new subspecies of animals like this bird. The discovery adds to a list of well-preserved creatures found in the same area, like a 42,000-year-old foal and an 18,000-year-old puppy, both of which I've talked about in previous videos. In 2007 and 2008, 2 baby mammoths, later named Lyuba and Chroma, were found in Siberia. They were so well preserved that researchers were able to piece together how they died, even though both calves, one about 1 month old and the other 2 months old, died more than 40,000 years ago. Scientists used CT scans to find that the two mammoths probably choked on mud after falling into water. Daniel Fisher, a co-author of the study, stated the mud was like a really thick batter that they got clogged in their trachea and they were unable to dislodge by coughing. Basically preserved them from taking another breath. Lyuba and the 1-month-old calf was discovered by a reindeer herder. Chroma was found in 2008, frozen upright in permafrost. Scavengers had eaten parts of her heart, lungs, and skull. But both mummies still showed a neonatal line on their teeth, a marker of stress during birth, which helped scientists estimate their ages. CT scans of Lyuba showed signs of what's called a mammalian dive reflex, showing that she fell through the ice into a muddy lake where she tried to clear the mud from her airways but eventually suffocated. Chroma, who had a belly full of breast milk, also had mud in her trachea, but her death is a bit less cut and dry. But according to researchers, it's possible she fell into a river, broke her back, and was then buried in mud while trying to escape. In 2015, scientists in Siberia discovered a baby woolly rhino, perfectly preserved in a frozen riverbank. Nicknamed Sasha after the man who found it, the rhino calf is the most complete specimen of its kind ever discovered. Sasha lived around 10,000 years ago, was about 1.5 meters long, or almost 5 feet, and 0.8 meters high, about 2.6 feet, much smaller than the fully grown adults, which could reach up to 15 feet long. According to Albert Protopopov from the Yakutian Academy of Sciences, baby woolly rhinos are incredibly rare to find, so this was a pretty amazing discovery, especially because it helps researchers learn more about the early life of these animals, which they didn't really know much about before. Woolly rhinos went extinct around 10,000 years ago. Climate change and habitat loss likely led to their extinction, but some scientists also think overhunting may have been a part of it. Around 30,000 years ago in Siberia, a tiny cave lion cub was making its way across the tundra when a sudden mudslide or crack in the permafrost caused the cub to fall and get trapped. The cub was buried in ice, preserving her fur, skin, and organs in almost perfect condition. This poor cub, later named Sparta, was discovered by mammoth tusk hunters in 2017, poking out of the melting permafrost in Yakutia, Siberia. Sparta is probably the best preserved Ice Age animal ever found, said Love Dallin, one of the study's co-authors, going on to say that even her whiskers were preserved. Sparta died about 28,000 years ago, and she was actually found alongside another cub named Boris, who was even older, dying around 43,000 years ago. Both cubs were about 1 to 2 months old when they died, with their sharp teeth just starting to emerge. Cave lions were closely related to modern African lions and lived across the northern hemisphere during the Ice Age. Unlike today's lions, though, these were, of course, adapted to freezing cold weather. In 2020, a perfectly preserved bear mummy was discovered in the Siberian permafrost. Siberia again. But anyway, it wasn't quite what scientists expected. At first, researchers thought they'd found the remains of a giant extinct cave bear, but eventually they realized the bear was much younger and from a completely different species. The bear was found by reindeer herders on a remote island in the East Siberian Sea. It was so well preserved that scientists could still see its skin, fur, claws, teeth, nose, internal organs, and even body fat. The remains were named the Etherican bear after a nearby river. At first, researchers at the Lazarev Mammoth Museum believed the bear was a cave bear, a massive species that went extinct about 22,000 years ago, but this bear was only about 3,460 years old. Turned out to be a young female brown bear standing just over 5 feet tall and weighing around 172 pounds. It was probably around 2 to 3 years old when it died. The bear's stomach contents revealed it had been eating plants and birds, with feathers still found inside its belly, which is incredible when you think about it. It also had signs of spinal injuries, which may have contributed to its death. In 2016, a gold miner in Yukon, Canada discovered something frozen in the ice. It turned out to be an ancient wolf pup, which had been almost perfectly preserved for 57,000 years. The mummified gray wolf, known as Zur, was found in the Klondike goldfields near Dawson City. Lead researcher Julie Machin, an anatomy professor, called it, quote, the most complete wolf specimen ever found from the Ice Age, going on to say all all her soft tissue, her hair, her skin, even her little nose is still there. She's just complete, and that is really rare. Using radiocarbon dating and DNA analysis, scientists confirmed Zur died at just 7 weeks old. The remains were especially important because they were discovered in North America, unlike most finds in Siberia, as you've seen from this list, which are harder to access. Machen and her team were able to link Zur's DNA to both ancient Beringian wolves from Yukon and Russian grey wolves, which means that ancient wolves from North America and Eurasia mixed. Zur's remains also showed them what Ice Age wolves ate. The assumption had always been that they mostly ate bison or oxen, but as it turned out, this wolf mostly consumed aquatic animals, much like modern wolves in Alaska. In 2011, members of a tribe in northern Siberia found the remains of a steppe bison, perfectly preserved after being frozen for nearly 10,000 years. The bison was transported to the Yakutian Academy of Sciences, where scientists began to study it. Unlike other bison mummies discovered over the years, this one was almost entirely intact, with its internal organs in remarkable condition. Olga Potapova, collections curator at the Mammoth site of Hot Springs, explained that while bison mummies are not uncommon, they're usually incomplete, saying, quote, "Normally what you find with mummies of megafauna is partial carcasses, but this mummy was preserved so well that it earned a record for the level of its preservation. The bison, which was probably about 4 years old when it died, looked like it had starved to death. There was no fat around its abdomen, but its heart and digestive systems were pretty intact, even though some organs had shrunk over time. Researchers even managed to extract tissue samples from each organ, and for the first time ever, they found steppe bison brain tissue still preserved. In 2022, a nearly perfectly mummified baby woolly mammoth was discovered by a miner in the permafrost of Canada's Klondike goldfields, dating back around 30,000 years. The calf, thought to be around 1 month old when it died, was a female and measured just 4.5 feet long. Researchers described it as the most complete mummified mammoth found in North America. A lot of its skin and hair was still intact. As an Ice Age paleontologist, it had been one of my lifelong dreams to come face to face with a real woolly mammoth, said Grant Zazula, a paleontologist with the Yukon government, going on to describe the mammoth as, quote, "one of the most incredible mummified Ice Age animals ever discovered in the world." The discovery happened when a mine worker hit something unexpected while digging. The team stopped all their work and brought in geologists who managed to recover the mammoth's remains, and just in time because a storm had been rolling in. Analysis suggested that the mammoth may have died after getting trapped in mud while grazing, with grass found in her stomach. In 2018, yet another incredible discovery was made in Siberia. The nearly perfectly preserved mummified remains of an Ice Age horse, believed to have died between 30,000 and 40,000 years ago. Its body was so well preserved that even tiny details like the hairs in its nostrils and around its hooves were still visible. The foal was found deep in a crater, about 328 feet or 100 meters deep, during an expedition in Yakutia. It was around 2 months old when it died. The mummified body was almost entirely intact, with no visible damage. Scientists collected samples from the foal's hair and tissue and found it belonged to an extinct species known as the Lena horse, which was genetically distinct from the wild horses that still roam the area today. This species lived in Siberia tens of thousands of years ago and disappeared long before modern horses evolved. In 2016, biologist Steve Emsley was in southern Antarctica when he came across something kind of confusing. It looked to be a recently abandoned Adelie penguin colony. There were mummified chicks, guano stains, pebbles from nests, but the thing is, Adelie penguins hadn't been spotted in the region for centuries. What Emsley soon discovered was that the penguin remains were far older than anyone could have imagined. Radiocarbon dating of the bones, eggshells, and mummified skin showed that these penguins had been dead for thousands of years. The rapidly melting ice in Antarctica revealed these ancient penguin remains. The penguins had likely settled in the area during warmer periods when the sea ice melted early, allowing the birds to reach the area and build their nests. The most recent colony, which had been buried during the Little Ice Age about 800 years ago, was finally uncovered as the region's ice began to recede. What you're looking at here is a tardigrade, aka a water bear. Now, is this a newly discovered alien species? Well, I wish, but no. These things actually exist right here at home. They're just really, really tiny, which I'm thankful for, because imagine if that alien-looking thing was the size of just even a regular house cat. That would just be horrifying. Tardigrades, nicknamed water bears, are one of the most resilient animals on the planet. They're microscopic animals that are known for their ability to survive in very extreme conditions all over the world. In places like Antarctica, they've been found frozen in ice for thousands of years. And what's amazing about these things is their ability to go into a kind of state of suspended animation. When conditions are harsh, like extreme cold or dryness, tardigrades dry out or freeze and enter a kind of hibernation. And when researchers thaw them out, they can come back to life. Water bears have even survived space travel in this dormant state. This makes them one of the toughest known organisms in the world.